thoughts on the council's efforts to dock your pay because of this first-class travel issue?
As it relates to the travel expenses, nothing aligned with being luxury at all.
Well, Mayor, you've been spending tens of thousands of dollars on overseas trips. Do you feel that was the right decision given the state of the city right now?
Tens of thousands of dollars is inaccurate.
The records do in fact show that your trips, your recent trips, when including all of the people that went, have cost in the tens of thousands of dollars, including your own first class travel on flights.
If you've been following my channel for a while, you know that we talk about Tiffany Henyard and all of our controversies at length. It's particularly about her travel expenses. But did you know in New Orleans, they had their own situation with Mayor Cantrell's lavish spending on travel? In this video, we're going to explore what happened with Mayor Cantrell and what she had to do to resolve the situation, and we're going to compare it to Henyard's situation. What does it say about the accountability of our public officials? Let's get into it. I know there's so many issues with Tiffany Henyard, but we're going to take a step back and I'll remind you guys of what exactly happened in terms of her spending tons of money on travel. Check it out.
Credit card records show Henyard and her team have charged taxpayers more than $102,000 for trips they've taken in the past year. That includes a stay at the Four Seasons in Atlanta and a $13,000 hotel tab in New York City.
Mayor Tiffany Henyard may have billed the wrong taxpayers for a trip to Washington, D.C. earlier this year.
We found more than $9,000 in charges for the U.S. Mayor's meeting, including conference fees, flights to Washington, D.C., hotel rooms that were all charged to a credit card belonging to Thornton Township, a completely separate unit of government where Henyard serves as supervisor.
There's no reason for anyone from a township to go to a mayor's conference.
UGN investigates. The township doesn't play any role in economic development, so they have no idea why township taxpayers picked up that bill.
But here's what happens when you ask her about how she spends taxpayer money.
I do not handle anything as relates to with credit cards. As you heard me speak today in my board meeting about, I do not handle that.
Some of those charges are for you, though.
No, sir.
You didn't go to Las Vegas? What is that?
No comment.
You don't know if you were in Las Vegas?
Of course I do.
Were you?
It's not paid by them.
Did you fly first class to Las Vegas?
Any other questions?
So we have the super mayor spending over $100,000 on travel, considering the village only has about 21,000 people. And even if you combine the whole township where she's a supervisor of, it's only 169,000 people, comparing to the population of New Orleans that has about 390,000 people. So let that sink in. Let's talk about Mayor Cantrell's travel controversy. So this happened between 2021 and 2023. Her travel expenses became a significant point of contention in New Orleans. During this period, Cantrell embarked on domestic and international flights, all in first class. These luxury trips, funded by the taxpayers, totaled nearly $29,000.
The mayor has gone on more than 20 overseas trips in the past year. While most of the mayor's expenses are paid by sponsors, her entourage's bills are not. Through public records, it was revealed those were paid with the city's general fund. Cantrell's travel's been under scrutiny since she was forced to return $30,000 spent in 2022. Her secretary says the mayor has only spent about $38,000 for the year. But again, our partners are saying that is just for her, and it doesn't cover her most recent trip to Qatar.
The public and officials alike question whether these expenses were necessary and were aligned with the city's financial policies. Cantrell's trips included destinations like Switzerland for a jazz festival and a planned but later canceled trip to Singapore for the World Cities Summit. Why would the New Orleans mayor need to go to Switzerland on the taxpayers' dime? Like, seriously. The lavish nature of these trips, particularly the choice of first-class travel, led to a lot of criticism.
Well, guys, after a records request, we now know that Mayor LaToya Cantrell spent $10,000. Just a small picture of what the actual trip cost, and it cost taxpayers. Now, we're still waiting to hear more on the France trip and anticipating the one to Singapore.
The previous trips to France and Switzerland were to renew the sister city contracts and spread the city's culture, but some have said this isn't the right time. Just last week, I asked the mayor, why now?
There's been a lot of complaints and criticism for, is now the right time to leave the country when there's so much going on in the city? What would you say to that?
that there's always the right time to conduct the city's business and especially expand our cultural footprint that drives the local economy.
Just the community members who are concerned about the cost.
First class travel is expensive. We all know. I've checked out some of the prices. I look at it and I realize I don't have that kind of money. But when you're an unethical leader, it doesn't matter because you're not spending the money. It's somebody else's money.
She spoke about her choice to fly business class at a news conference Wednesday.
Business class in terms of travel is what I do. Particularly in this environment to ensure, my safety.
City Council President Helena Moreno tweeted, "I definitely want the mayor to be safe, so if she felt she needed security, she should have flown economy class with him. Plus, these are taxpayer dollars, and travel agencies I've reached out to say these ticket prices are not norm and egregious."
And you look at the mayor and even the budget for travel that I have, you can see that it is pennies on a dollar relative to a $1.4 billion organization that I lead.
We're going to talk about exactly what Cantrell did to, resolve the situation. But I just want to talk about these unethical leaders. These political leaders engage in these unethical actions with taxpayer money, and they do it for various reasons. One key factor is just the sense of entitlement and privilege that accompany positions of power. These leaders often find themselves in environments where they have access to significant resources and they face less scrutiny, leading them to believe they can do whatever they want. They create a perception that they're above the law, leading to decisions that prioritize personal or political gain over everybody else, over the public interest. The whole reason that you run for office is to serve the people. But another big problem is the lack of effective oversight and accountability mechanisms. When political systems lack transparency or have weak checks and balances, leaders may exploit these gaps to engage in unethical behavior without fear of consequences. This is often exacerbated by a culture of impunity where past instances of misconduct have gone unpunished, reinforcing the belief that these people can do whatever they want. Unethical actions will not be held accountable.
Y'all forget I am the leader. They want to hear from the mayor. If y'all ain't learned that yet, the mayor. Not the trustees that don't do nothing, that only run their mouth. Y'all don't do no work.
Additionally, the pressure to maintain power and influence may drive leaders to misuse public funds. In some cases, this involves using taxpayer money on self-promotion. You already know Henyard loves doing that, to curry favor with influential groups or maintain a luxurious lifestyle that projects power and status. Henyard wants to be a social influencer. You see how she handles her social media. The desire to stay in office and secure their position can lead leaders to justify their unethical decisions, seeing them as necessary for the greater good or for their continued success. In contrast, Mayor Tiffany Henyard has faced a series of allegations that go beyond travel expenses. She has been accused of financial mismanagement, including using public funds for personal legal expenses. So these allegations suggest a deeper, more systematic issue within her administration, pointing to a culture of corruption. As many people already know, Illinois is one of the most corrupt states in the country. So the accusations against Henyard are multifaceted, involving not just misuse of funds, but allegations of nepotism, retaliation against political opponents. It's a lot of problems over there. For example, Henyard hiring close family members, close associates for governmental positions, even if they were not qualified to do so, like Keith Price. So this raises questions about the integrity and the fairness in her administration hiring practices. That's why the feds are in town. So going back to the Cantrell situation, many people argue that this spending was inappropriate, especially during a time when New Orleans faced significant financial issues, including a manpower crisis in the New Orleans Police Department. The thing that they need to protect people, considering New Orleans is one of the more violent places in the country. But, listen, Cantrell needs to go to Switzerland.
I think it's important to realize what are the benefits of these particular trips. What exactly is the value of that? What are you bringing back?
As someone who's worked in the private sector for many years, in a professional manner, everything you do has to be accounted for.
That's the system that our mayor should use if she has any consideration of the public money being used. No, she's using it to her advantage.
The controversy intensified as Cantrell initially resisted reimbursing the city for its costs. However, under mounting pressure from the public and other political figures, she eventually paid back nearly $29,000 for the flight upgrades.
She would upgrade her flights to first class or business class, costing the city tens of thousands of dollars just this year. But after questions by city council members and an opinion from the city attorney, the mayor said she's now making plans to pay the money back.
I am, in fact, deemed an employee of the city of New Orleans.
And as an employee of the city of New Orleans, Mayor LaToya Cantrell announced Tuesday she will have to follow city policy, which means her flight upgrades will have to come out of her own pocket.
Despite the reimbursement, the incident raised a lot of concerns about her ethical use of political funds and the transparency expected from public officials, and the fact that she also having some other issues as well, messing with married cops. Now, one thing I do like about Mayor Cantrell's situation is that she was pressured to pay back the city. Maybe that needs to happen with Tiffany Henyard. If they find that this was a misuse of funds, many of those trips did not necessarily help the village in any way, maybe she get hit with the bill. All the first class trips, all the nice restaurants they went to, all the stuff that she did under the guise of I'm trying to help the village, maybe she should get hit with a bill and pay back that money. Considering all of the issues with the debt that's in Dalton, they need that money, especially with the travel situation. If they realize that a lot of stuff was not for the village, then she should be able to pay out of her pocket. She does make over $300,000 a year. Pay the bill. You can't do that. This is public money. Pay it back. I think that's a great idea. But when you compare the two, which one is worse? Well, you can look at it as the scope and the nature of the allegations, also the financial impact, and also the ethical and moral considerations. Let's talk about the scope of the investigation. With Mayor Cantrell, the controversy is primarily about the ethics of using taxpayer funds with luxury travel, the main issue that whether these expenses were necessary or appropriate. And the problem with Henyard is the accusations are broader and more severe. It includes financial mismanagement, misuse of power, nepotism, and potential corruption. These allegations suggest the systematic issues that I talked about earlier. Talking about the financial implications, Cantrell, we can kind of see that there may be some more issues because of Officer Vappy basically doing payroll fraud, getting clocked in, getting paid for hours that he's not actually working. We'll see if there's more to it. The big difference between her and Henyard is Henyard's potential misuse of funds extend beyond travel, it encompassing a range of financial decisions that can have far-reaching consequences for Dalton's budget and governance. The village of Dalton and the city of New Orleans, it's two big different situations considering how many people live in Dalton compared to how many people live in New Orleans. So if we had to rate the level of corruption and issues, which one is worse? Given the severity of the allegations against the super mayor, she faces several potential consequences. If the FBI confirms the misuse of public funds and other unethical behaviors, Henyard could be subject to legal action, including fines and possible removal from office, potentially ending her tenure as mayor and possibly every other future career in public service. They'll all be gone. Which situation is worse? Definitely what's going on in Dalton seems worse. Cantrell, if it's just the travel and maybe her playing around with her married boyfriend or divorced boyfriend, it seems like her situation is more of a contained issue. And the fact that the New Orleans public and officials were able to push her to pay back that money for all those upgrades.
All other 6 council members voted yay to adopt a new ordinance governing travel policy. Council Vice President J.P. Morrell said this is a common practice when traveling on other people's money.
When you talk about spending public funds, the name of the game should always be absolute transparency.
But the problem is with Henyard is just a larger dysfunctional system that needs to be redone. It needs to be built back up because the money may be gone. And the situation could lead to broader reforms within the Dalton's government, hopefully with stricter laws on financial management and hiring practices. Dalton needs increased oversight and accountability measures to restore public trust and prevent future abuses of power. But we'll see what happens. But what do you guys think about the situation? What do you think was worse? What Cantrell did or what Henyard did? Also, would you like Henyard to actually pay back all that money if they find out that many of these trips were unnecessary? Should she come out her pocket and pay back the village of Dalton for all the money that she spent? Let me know, put in the comments below. Thank you for taking time to watch this video, and I'll see you guys in the next video.